All right, where's my driver? I don't know what car I'm getting today. Hopefully it's a nice one. Yeah, so I'm actually in Portugal right now, and I'm at the media launch of the BMW i5 and i7, and I'm just waiting for my driver because I'm excited to go for a drive with some spectacular cars today. And one of them is going to be coming up down the alley right now, and I'm going to show you what it is. Of course, in this video, we're going to go for a drive in the back seat, in the front seat. I'm going to show you all the design features, and then we're going to put this car to a real test because we want to push the car. It is worth pushing this car. It is fantastic. It is the most powerful electric BMW that you've seen. So you might have guessed by now, but in case you haven't, here is my ride. Wow, look at this. Spectacular spec. So that's the BMW i7 M70, and I think this is the Aurora Diamond Green. Amazing, absolutely stunning car. All right, let's hop inside. Hello, Joanna.
Hi, Horatio.
Thanks for picking me up.
Yes.
Beautiful
thank you
car.
for coming.
Spectacular color. I believe it's called Aurora Diamond Green, right?
Yes, it is. Clear.
So what do you have here? The BMW i7 M70, which is the most powerful electric BMW today, right?
Exactly.
So tell me about this car. Is it all about driving, all about sitting in the back seat? What do you think?
Well, Horatio, actually it's both. So our customers, they really like to drive, but they also like to relax and enjoy the ride on the back seat. So, and actually we also have quite some customers who need to work. And so we created the executive lounge, exactly where you are sitting right now, to make the customer feel very comfortable while working, while enjoying, for example, a movie, or while just relaxing, getting a massage from the seat. So yeah, we have actually the best of both. You can enjoy driving and you can enjoy sitting on the back seat.
All right, so should we go for a drive?
Yes, sure.
All right, so let me put my
Let's do
seatbelt on. I'm probably not going to be working today, to be honest. So I'm just going to be relaxing in this executive lounge. And then we can talk a little bit about the specs of the car, maybe some things that are available in the i7 M70. So
yes.
You mentioned the executive lounge. It's an option that you can get in any BMW. So basically it's not just in this one.
No, it's in every BMW 7 Series. You
Perfect.
get the executive lounge.
All right, so if you want to activate the executive lounge in the car, all you have to do is just use the touchpads in the rear doors. And essentially, you push on that option. You might have seen it before. I mean, we've talked about this quite a bit. It's a cool feature, a unique feature in the car. You can see the front chair moves forward, and it's going to give you some room here, of course, for the seat to adjust to the executive lounge position. Keep in mind, this is a long wheelbase 7 Series. They don't offer two options anymore. Essentially, there is only one variant, and it's the longest one that's ever been available. And this is why you have a lot of interior room. And so you can put your feet up and essentially enjoy the ride. I mean, we're in Portugal right now, Joanna. It's always amazing road.
Yes.
There are always amazing roads. The ocean is to our right side. I mean, you can see it right there. I mean, it doesn't get better than this. You have this plush pillows right here. I mean, this is fantastic. I don't even know why I want to drive today, to be honest.
Well, to be honest, I also have a lot of fun driving right now, so...
So do. So you're teasing me because now I feel like I have to drive this car because it's got about 660 PS, 650 HP. I mean, it is extremely, extremely fast. It's supposed to go from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. So this should be a rocket. All right, so let's talk about some other interesting features in the car, because we're gonna talk about the design on the outside. We're gonna talk about the interior features as well. But there is another feature in the BMW i7 that I enjoy quite a bit, of course, in the regular 7 Series, and that's the theater screen. It's an 8K 31-inch powered by 5G connection. It uses the Fire TV OS. So essentially you can stream a lot of your favorite shows, music, you can do a lot of things with that system. So Joanna, do you mind putting down the screen so we can take a look at it?
Let's put it down.
So let's see what happens when the screen comes down. Blinds go up, of course, for privacy reasons, of course, because it's quite sunny outside as well. So you want to make sure that you're getting the full experience. Bowers and Wilkins speakers all over the car, so essentially you will have no issues with the sound, high fidelity sound. And of course, look at this screen. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful, massive 31-inch. It is touchscreen. You can control it easily from here. Of course, you have a lot of apps, the YouTube app, Netflix, so on and so forth. So you can really stream a lot of things that you want. There is an app store, so if you go to the app store, you will see a bunch of apps there available. Joanne, I think now it's time for me to actually drive the car maybe, right? Because as much as I love to be sitting in the back seat here, I think driving the car might be a lot of fun. So maybe we pull over somewhere, we swap places, and we're gonna go for a spirited drive with the M70.
Oh no, you want me to stop driving?
I mean, I would love to not work today, but I came to Portugal to actually do some work. So I'm gonna swap seats and we're gonna go for a drive. So I've talked about the design of the BMW i7 quite a bit. So I'm just gonna keep it brief today. Once again, it is controversial nonetheless, especially because of the kidney grille and the split headlights. We've talked about this extensively, so I'm just gonna say this. It's a car that you need to see in person. It's a lot bolder in real life, but it's also one of those things that you either love it or hate it. So I'm not gonna try to convince you today that this is the most beautiful car BMW has ever made, but I'm telling you, in real life, it does have a certain presence that you don't see in many cars on the road today. So let's see what's different on the i7 M70. First of all, you're getting this blacked out kidney grille that comes with the illuminated option all around it. So that's one standard feature on the BMW i7 M70. Of course, it has the M Sport package on it. It's the M Performance model, so it'll be a lot more aggressive at the front end. You can see the air deflectors right there, quite massive, and they give the car a bolder look at the front. Naturally, it's an M car, so it does come with specific M wheels. You can see right here, 21-inch wheel options, bicolor, black and silverish. Of course, it's something that you get on all the MPA, M Performance automobiles from BMW. You have black calipers. I believe you can spec that in blue and red as well, but naturally black goes really well with this wheel option and also with the Aurora Diamond Green. M mirrors, right? I mean, we've seen this in the last few years. Every M Light car, every M Performance car now comes with those M mirrors. They used to be dedicated to full M cars like the M3, M4, M5s, but now you see them across a wider spectrum of BMW products. And naturally, it's on the BMW i7 M70. So from the side, once again, aside from the mirrors, aside from the badge right there, it's your typical BMW i7. Now, if you go to the back, of course, there might be a couple of small changes. First one probably will be the spoiler, right? I mean, it's an M Performance car, so it always gets this very solid spoiler right there. Another M badge with a 70 right there, so that's gonna tell you that this is a special BMW i7. It does come with a brand new diffuser, so you can see it's a lot more aggressive. Of course, it's never going to be as aggressive as on a combustion-powered BMW M car. So that's the exterior design of the i7 M70. As I said, no major changes there. Of course, we want to go inside right now and talk about the design there. You've seen me in the rear seat. Now we're gonna hop in the driver's seat and talk about the technology, the luxury items, and all of that. So let's go for a quick look inside the car. So the interior of the i7 M70, at a first glance, of course, it is pretty much the same as the regular i7. You do have a few extra options in the customization process of the car. As you can see right here, you can have this two-tone leather. It's a brown and dark grayish, which looks spectacular. Of course, you can customize the trim. There are so many options in the configurator. Of course, you can also go to the BMW individual and really spec out the car of your dreams if you want to. But overall, it's your typical BMW 7 Series i7 design. And what do I mean by that? We've talked about this in the past, so I'll keep it as brief as possible. First of all, it does get the M Sport steering wheel with this flat bottom. This is an option if you get the M Sport package and also if you get the i7 M70, so no surprise there. Large curved display. Only the biggest difference in this car, it is powered by iDrive 8.5. So all the 7 Series that we've reviewed so far had iDrive 8. This one has the latest head unit, so it did get the update to 8.5, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. Center console, again, no surprise here, plenty of crystals all around. I am extremely happy that I still have the iDrive controller because, as you can see here, there are no physical buttons, no physical touches. Some of them are integrated inside this interaction bar, and we've talked about that in the past. Interesting tidbits, you can control the airflow from there, so that's a nice and very solid integration of that. Then of course you have this interaction bar, as I mentioned, that can be customized in different colors. It can be customized to show if you're getting a phone call inside the car, to give you a visual alert as well. The seats, I mentioned already, they're M Sport seats. As you can see, this got some really nice side bolsters, and I'm gonna have a chance to really test them as I push the car quite hard. If you look up here just a little bit, I mean, it's quite sunny today, so you can't really see, but you are getting this large panoramic roof. Once again, something that you've seen on the normal BMW i7 and 7 Series. Bowers & Wilkins speakers all around. Of course, it's a luxury car, so you gotta have that. And you also have these velour floor mats right there, which are quite plush and quite nice. Might not be easy to keep them clean, but they do look luxurious. So that's a quick overview of just the design here, but now we're gonna dive into the features of the BMW iDrive 8.5 and maybe into some of the specific features to the i7 and the charging process in the car. So let me show you. First off, let me show you the My BMW app. There are a few cool features in there. Automatic doors, basically you can open and close the doors from the app. Left, right, of course, individual opening and closing, or you can do it all, open all, close all. So that's a feature inside the My BMW app. You can also do the remote control parking. Essentially, you can be outside the car and maneuver the car through the app. So quite cool. And there is an additional feature that's new to the car. It's called the My BMW Digital Key Plus, which essentially it will allow you for contactless opening and closing of the door. So as you approach the car, it will open or close the door. So with that being said, now let's take a look at the BMW iDrive 8.5. First off, you are getting this new quick select feature, which essentially it's a new way to interact with the widgets or with the shortcuts on the screen. You can see here you can customize the left side to have different widgets. So whichever it's more important to you, you can put it at the top, and essentially it's an easier way to control the entire functions of the car. Probably my favorite update on iDrive 8.5, it's really a new way to interact with the climate control. It was quite cumbersome in iDrive 8, but now it's a lot easier. So you can see you can go here and you have this quick shortcut where you can control the cooling of the seats, the heating, of course, the heating of the steering wheel. So a lot easier to do that. Naturally, if you want to control the entire AC system, you now have this new UI UX basically, which is a lot more simplified, a lot more intuitive than what you've seen before. So as you can see, simple push, it will bring it up, and now you can actually control the AC functions. It does mimic the older physical buttons that you had right there, but now they're all digital right there. So that's a nice addition to the BMW i7 M70. Of course, it will be available in the regular 7 Series and i7, and of course to other models as well that have the proper head unit. Now let's talk about charging. So charging menu, as you can see, quite a few options here. This one comes with a DC fast charging, so you can fast charge the car from 10 to 80% in about 30 something minutes, 32, 34 minutes. But then of course it does come with a regular AC charging, 11 kilowatts in the US and 22 kilowatts in Europe. It does have a bunch of features in here. Some of them you might have seen before. For example, you can change the charging target. So I always suggest going to 80% to kind of preserve the battery level. But of course, if you want to have the full battery pack, then you can go to 100%. Nothing wrong with that. Preconditioning, of course, a feature that's quite important in EVs today, and it's available in the BMW i7 and of course in the M70 as well. So if you're planning on extending your range, I always recommend using that feature as much as possible. You have the option for the fan loudness. Basically, it will allow you to, if you choose the unrestricted option right there, to fully charge the battery as fast as possible with no restrictions. I always recommend keep it on unrestricted for that particular reason. Other than that, really no other major changes here. If you've seen the BMW 7 Series, the i7, even the i4, most of the features, if not all of them, are quite the same. The car does come with a 40 amps onboard charging capability, and you can charge on DC fast charging at a rate of 195 kilowatts. As you know, BMW is quite good about maintaining that peak quite flat, so you will be able to charge the car quite fast, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. It's an electric car, so of course it comes with the iconic sounds composed by Hans Zimmer. And you can see right here, you can go into the driving settings right there. Iconic sounds, you can turn it on and off. Of course, you will get different sounds based on my modes. As I will drive the car, I will explain that as well. Now, if you go back, I want to show you a couple of new features actually inside the car. And that's the YouTube app. So essentially, you will be able to watch YouTube as long as the car is static, so you're not able to watch it as you drive, of course, for safety reasons. The connection is very, very low here, so it's gonna load a little bit slower than usual, but you get the idea. And exclusively for the BMW i7 and the 7 Series, you are getting a Bundesliga app. It might be available in the i5 as well, I'm not 100% sure, but essentially it's a new app and where you can watch German football streamed live inside the car. Granted that you have a proper internet connection. The car does come with 5G available, so as long as you have really good signal, you should be able to stream it quite nicely. You can see right there, I'm in Portugal, so the roaming signal, it's not that great, but just a quick idea. You can see the upcoming matches, essentially from Bundesliga. Of course, if you're from Munich, you might be interested in that one right there. So that's a new feature inside the BMW i7. Other than that, really your typical menu that you've seen before. Maybe a couple of things worth mentioning are probably the theater screen. This one doesn't come equipped with a theater screen. You've seen me in the back seat, kind of, pulling down the screen and looking at the screen. Of course, you can stream your favorite shows and movies, and you can do a lot more with that. Unfortunately, they are not connected, so this one, it's iDrive system-based operating system. The other one is Fire TV. Apparently, they're working on trying to bring them together somehow, but there is nothing that we can communicate at this point according to BMW. So once again, you can control the screen from here. You can fold it down, you can adjust the tilt angle, so on and so forth. You've seen it before. Of course, you have the parking features. This car is fully equipped with all the latest parking features from BMW, and you can see you have a 360 camera, and you can use the reverse assistant parking, and you can let the car park by itself and do all the other cool tricks that you might have seen in the past. Something else that's interesting, maybe, let's see, of course, the My Modes. Once again, you have the Sport mode. If you click that, the entire car will kind of turn sharper. You'll get all these red lights and accents all over the car. But then, of course, if you want to go into more relaxed drive, you can always go back into, let's say, the efficient or relaxed mode. And as you can see right now, everything is kind of closing down inside the car. The blinds come up, the panoramic roof closes, and essentially you're in a more relaxed mode. So I've talked enough about the design, about the features of the car, but I guess the most important thing today is really driving the car, because I flew all the way to Lisbon. It is not a very short flight from the US, and the idea was to come here and to enjoy some of these amazing, amazing scenic roads, because this car is quite capable. So with that being said, I'm gonna go for a drive right now. We're gonna do a 0 to 60 as well. I'm gonna show some dynamic driving, and then we're gonna hop on the highway to show you what it feels like to drive in a more relaxed and calm setting. So with that being said, let's go. Here we go. So finally driving the BMW i7 M70, and let me tell you this. It's a rocket. I mean, absolutely mind-blowing how fast this car is. I mean, keep in mind, this is a 6,000 pounds car. They can do this. I mean, just look at this. Absolutely amazing. I mean, the power delivery is just insane. So let's talk about that first before we dive into the driving dynamics of the car. It's a dual motor, of course. The front one comes from the BMW i7 xDrive 60, but the rear one comes from the iX M60, which means it's the most powerful one used in the car. It delivers 483 horsepower in the back, with the rest coming from the front. That will give you a total of 650 horsepower or 660 PS, depends which measurement you're using. Torque, massive amount of torque. 811 pounds-feet of torque, which translates into 1100 Newton meters. Of course, that's being achieved with the boost mode, but even without the boost mode, you're still getting over 1000 Newton meters of torque, which is also equal to about 750 pounds-feet of torque. Oh my God, I mean, it just literally takes off. Unbelievable. So, what's special about the i7 M70, right? Because it's not all about the straight line performance. A lot of car companies out there, especially in the EV space, they're bragging about those 0 to 60 times, which are impressive nonetheless. But with BMW cars, and especially with one tuned by BMW M, it's also about the driving dynamics. So what's different on the M70 compared to the base i7? Let's just call it that way. First of all, the suspension. It's been stiffened up. It's a lot more rigid than you would find in the i7. Of course, that's going to help with the lateral movement, especially when you're cornering hard. The dampers, the bushings, all of these things have been changed quite a bit in this car. They are stiffer. They are going to give you a different driving dynamic compared to the base i7. There is also calibration done on the steering. I talked to the engineers last night and they mentioned that they had to work on the steering to make sure that it reflects the character of the car, to make sure that it's gonna give you a little bit of an M-infused DNA into this car, because even though it's not a full M car, it's still an M-like car, and it might not even be a true M-like car like M340i or the M440i or all these variants. It is still an M-tuned car, so it has to have something special. So they decided to improve a little bit the steering in this one, because in the normal i7 it's a little bit too soft for my liking. Of course, it's a luxury car, so not everyone cares about the steering feedback, but if you're a car journalist, you have to talk about that. So as we push the car, we're gonna talk a little bit about this and how it feels compared to the other model. So what's different from a mechanical standpoint on the i7 M70 from the base i7? Even though the air suspension is coming from that particular model, BMW decided to change up a little bit the air dampers. So that's one change. The second one, you are getting a different suspension tuning. Third, the steering feedback has been improved by having a different software calibration to match also the power that's found in the M70 model. Naturally, the bushings and the bearings were also tightened up a little bit, just enough to make sure that when you're leaning hard into corners, you're feeling the chassis to be a lot stiffer and a lot more responsive. Another point on the suspension, it's the fact that it does really well to rebound when you're going over imperfect roads and also over potholes. Essentially, the way that it works, the wheels are somewhat decoupled when it comes to that. So if you're hitting a pothole, let's say with your front left tire, that only that particular tire will take over the rebound of the suspension, and essentially what happens, you're not getting those lateral movements from the car. So essentially the only movement that you're getting will be just a little bit of up and down, and as soon as it rebounds, the car just sits nicely on the ground. Most of the time you don't even feel those potholes, honestly, and especially speed bumps. If they're not very aggressive, then you'll definitely not feel them. So overall, an extremely plush and comfortable suspension, something that I wish we had in the BMW XM as well. That was a not very solid hint, BMW had. All right, so all these changes, they're basically going to have an effect on the drive. And a lot of you might be wondering, should I buy the base i7 xDrive 60 or should I sprint for the i7 M70, which is a lot more expensive? So let's kick it off with the driving dynamics, right? I pushed the car quite a bit today in some of these corners here in Portugal. There are a lot of bends, a lot of tight roads as well. This is a big car, so you always got to be careful. But at a first glance, I can tell you immediately that the car feels a lot sportier than the i7 xDrive 60. Not necessarily because of the extra power, a lot more power in this one and definitely a lot more torque, but also because of the driving characteristics. Keep in mind, this car also comes with the active anti-roll stabilization and all these traction control nannies, which really help you not only drive effortless the car because it's a big car, but also driving dynamic. And what do I mean by dynamic? Well, when you're pushing the car hard into a corner, you're expecting a certain behavior from the car. And in this one, because you have a very powerful motor in the rear, you are getting that BMW driving experience that you might have experienced it before in, let's say, combustion power cars. The one thing that I want to talk about, it's really the My Modes, because there is an additional mode that's available in the i7 M70. I believe it's also going to the BMW i5, and it's called MaxRange. The name is self-explanatory, right? I mean, it probably doesn't need a lot of introduction, but let me explain you how it works. Essentially, it will extend your range by about 25%, and it does that by reducing the motor's power, also by reducing some of the AC functionality in the car, like the cooling of the seats, and also by limiting what the top speed is. I believe in this car, it's gonna be either 90 or 95 kilometers per hour. So that's brand new in the car. Of course, the car also comes with your typical My Modes like Comfort, Sport, and Sport Plus.
And I can tell you a couple of things about that compared to the i760. First of all, the comfort mode, it's a little bit stiffer, a little bit more dynamic, more sporty if you'd like, than the base i7. And I'm not surprised by that really, because that's the expectation of an M performance car. And also when you go to the Sport and Sport Plus, you are definitely getting a lot more driving dynamics, a lot more stiffness in the car overall. So again, not surprised at all. That's kind of the philosophy of those M-Light tuned cars. And if you were to compare them all the time with the base model, you will probably come to the same conclusion. So you might be wondering, is the car still comfortable? Is it still a good daily driver? And the answer is yes. Even though the comfort mode might be a little bit sportier, let's say, than the base i760, it is still extremely comfortable. I've been driving in some of those tiny villages and also on the highway, and I can tell you that this car still has that 7 Series plush and comfort infused in it. Now, if you go to the extreme, when you go into the Sport and Sport Plus, and you configure all the settings to be at their highest point, then you will definitely notice the car being a lot more dynamic, a lot sporty if you'd like, than the base i7. So really no surprise here. I mean, that's kind of the idea of this car, right? I mean, that's why you're building an M-Light, M-Tune car, because you want to give a little bit more sportiness in the car, but at the same time, you don't want to trade off the 7 Series character. I mean, a lot of those customers that buy this car, they still want to have a very enjoyable and very comfortable daily driver. So from that perspective, you have nothing to worry about. This is still a 7 Series, but if you switch everything into Sport and Sport Plus, it will give you a different and sportier character. Now let's talk about the battery and also about the electric range. Unfortunately today, I didn't focus too much on being the most efficient driver, but I can tell you what the EPA rating says. So the car comes with a usable battery capacity of 101.7 kilowatts hours, which will give you a range of about 291 miles on the EPA rating, or if you're looking at the WLTP, it's somewhere in between 488 to 560 kilometers. You can charge the car, as I said earlier, from AC or from DC charging, and also the BMW i7 M70 brings charging with multiple contracts. BMW is offering actually up to 5 separate contracts within the car, so you can essentially just go to a charging station and BMW calls it plug and charge. You just plug in your car and it's gonna start without you having to do anything else. All right, so I've been driving for quite a bit today, but now it's time to test the 0 to 60 times. I have a Racebox GPS with me, so I'm gonna be able to give you some fairly accurate times. So let's find a straight road and go for a quick 0 to 60 drag. So now let's do the 0 to 60 in the BMW i7 M70. So let's see if we can get better than 3.5 seconds to 60 miles per hour. Let's go. First things first, Sport mode. You see it right there. We're gonna flick the Sport boost. Here we go. .69, so very, very close. I can probably go even faster. Let's give one more try. Boost once again. Here we go. .62. All right, so pretty close to the official number. I'm pretty sure it's a combination probably of the terrain that we're on, also the tires and all of that, but quite fast, as you can see. All right, so this was the 0 to 60 in the BMW i7 M70. We're gonna keep driving right now and see what the car can do on some of those curvy roads. Don't go anywhere. Driving dynamics. Definitely on the sportier side than the base i7. Of course, it's still a heavy car. You will feel the body roll. You will feel the heaviness of the car. I would love to say that it drives like a smaller car. Maybe it does in some ways, but overall it is still your typical heavy BMW 7 Series, especially i7, which is, as I said earlier, close to 6,000 pounds. So from that perspective, if you're looking for, let's say, an M3, M5 type of driving experience and lateral forces and all of that, you're not gonna get that. In the end, this is still a luxury limousine that just happens to be very fun to drive and very fast and powerful. But it's also interesting to see that BMW does manage all the time to fine-tune their cars to give them a different character, because this car does have a different character compared to the i760. It's got a little bit more sportiness in it, as I said, but it also seems to be a lot more fun. I found myself smiling quite a bit today as driving this car, and especially when I was pushing the car quite hard in corners and cornering and braking hard and exiting out of that corner, I realized how much fun it actually is. Of course, it might not have the soul of a combustion power car or a V12 7 Series, but in many ways it is still extremely fun and extremely engaging. We're adjusting to this electric world step by step. I'm assuming in the next 10 years we'll be seeing a lot more electric cars from BMW, especially with Neue Klasse coming out. So this is a brand new and very brave new world. So even my driving behavior, it's adjusting slowly because you have this instant torque all the time. Even the way that I drive when I attack a corner, it is quite different than a combustion powered BMW. So by now you might be wondering, why should I buy the i7 M70 over the base i7? And the answer is actually simpler than I thought. Initially, I kind of struggled to understand the car, was trying to figure out what's BMW trying to do. I get it, they need to have a product in this segment, you know, with the Lucid Air there, the Porsche Taycan, maybe even Tesla Model S, so they needed to have something. But also at the same time, there are a lot of people that want a lot more power in their 7 Series, or in this case, in the i7. With the V12 being gone, I mean, it's been gone for a while, if you look at that car, if you go back into the history, the V12 was kind of in the similar spot. Of course, great sounding engine, but it was also a very niche product. It was a product that catered to a very, very small subset of the 7 Series customers. And I have a feeling that the i7 M70 kind of plays a similar role. So if you have endless amount of money, or if you have extra money to spend, and you want more power and a little bit more sportiness in your i7, then I would say the i7 M70, it's absolutely worth it. If you're the type of buyer looking for the best bang for your buck, then clearly you can always go for the i760. It is still a very capable car. It has similar features, and of course, it's just equally luxurious. So in the end, it really comes down to this. You have the extra money, you want something more powerful, go for the i7 M70 and you won't regret it. So with that being said, this is my test drive review of the BMW i7 M70. Of course, we'll have a longer test coming up when I get back to the States, and we will get the cars in our hands for a week or more. And then I can tell you more about the efficiency, about the range. I've been driving quite a bit today, so it wouldn't be entirely accurate considering how I was driving and considering how much I was pushing the car, and especially going on the highway at really, really top speeds. So thanks for watching as always, guys. Thanks for subscribing to our videos, and I will see you in the next one.